The biting wind whipped across the manicured lawns of Blackwood Manor, carrying with it the scent of damp earth and the distant howl of a lonely wolf. Inside, the grand estate was a haven of warmth and opulence, but even the thickest walls couldn't entirely shut out the creeping dread that had settled over the countryside. I, Detective Inspector Alistair Finch, found myself drawn into this unsettling atmosphere, a pawn in a game of shadows and secrets. The case, as it was presented to me, was simple enough: a missing person. Lord Ashworth, the reclusive owner of Blackwood Manor, had vanished without a trace. No forced entry, no ransom demands, just an empty room and a growing sense of unease. But as I delved deeper, the case began to unravel, revealing a tapestry of hidden desires, simmering resentments, and a darkness that clung to the very stones of the manor. My first encounter was with Lady Beatrice Ashworth, the missing lord's wife, a woman of striking beauty with an air of icy composure that barely concealed the turmoil within. Her eyes, the color of a stormy sea, held a depth of sadness that hinted at a life lived in the shadows. "My husband was a man of routine," she said, her voice as smooth as polished marble. "He would never simply disappear. Something terrible has happened." Her words, though laced with grief, felt carefully chosen, each syllable measured. I sensed a hidden truth, a secret she was desperately trying to protect. The staff of Blackwood Manor were a chorus of whispers and averted gazes. Each had their own secrets, their own reasons to fear the truth. There was Mrs. Gable, the stern housekeeper, who seemed to know more than she let on. Thomas, the young groundskeeper, who spent his days tending to the sprawling gardens. And then there was Eleanor, the alluring young maid, whose presence seemed to ignite a spark of tension in every room she entered. As I began my investigation, I discovered that Lord Ashworth was not the benevolent patriarch he appeared to be. He was a man of dark appetites, a collector of rare artifacts and even rarer women. Whispers of illicit affairs and hidden debts began to surface, painting a picture of a man living a double life, a life that had finally caught up with him. The first real clue came from a hidden diary tucked away in a locked drawer in Lord Ashworth's study. The pages were filled with cryptic entries detailing his secret rendezvous, his obsessions, and his growing paranoia. The last entry, scrawled in a frantic hand, spoke of a meeting, a betrayal, and a fear that someone was closing in. The investigation led me down a rabbit hole of deceit and betrayal. I discovered that Lady Beatrice was not the innocent wife she pretends to be. She had been having an affair with the Thomas, the groundskeeper, their clandestine meetings taking place in the secluded rose garden. Eleanor, the maid, was also involved, entangled in a web of something far darker. The tension in the manor was palpable, a suffocating blanket of unspoken accusations and hidden desires. The air crackled with the electricity of suppressed emotions, the scent of lust and betrayal hanging heavy in the air. Then, one moonless night, I found myself drawn to the rose garden, the scene of so many whispered secrets. The air was thick with the scent of roses, their velvety petals glistening in the moonlight. As I walked through the garden, I heard a rustle in the bushes. I drew my revolver, my heart pounding in my chest. Emerging from the shadows was Eleanor.
"Please don't shoot! I didn't do it!"
Her eyes
Stay where you are.
wide
Tell me
with
what you
fear.
saw.
I saw nothing, I
She
swear!
confessed to everything: her affair with Lord Ashworth, her role in his disappearance. "They planned it all," she whispered. Lady Beatrice and Thomas. They made him disappear." Her voice trembling. "They knew his secrets, his weaknesses. They knew how to make him disappear." The pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. Lady
Please don't do
Beatrice,
this.
driven by a
It's too late
desire
for
for
that.
freedom and
There
wealth,
has to be
had
another way.
orchestrated the entire plot. Thomas, consumed by his love for her, had been her willing accomplice. But something didn't add up, a secret that even Eleanor didn't know. As I questioned her further, I noticed a small silver locket around her neck. It was a replica of one that Lord Ashworth always wore. "Where did you get that?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Eleanor hesitated, then confessed that Lord Ashworth had given it to her. He had been obsessed with her, and she had used his infatuation to her advantage. But the locket was more than just a trinket. It contained a hidden compartment, and inside I found a small folded piece of paper. Unfolding the paper, I saw a list of names, each crossed out with a bold black line. At the bottom of the list, there was one name that wasn't crossed out, Alistair Finch. My blood ran cold. I realized that I had been played, that I was nothing more than a pawn in their deadly game. The missing lord wasn't the only one that was in danger. The next morning, I confronted Lady Beatrice and Thomas. They denied everything, their faces masks of innocence. But I had the evidence, the confessions, the proof of their guilt. As I placed them under arrest, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still amiss. The case was closed, the culprits apprehended, but the darkness that had settled over Blackwood Manor remained. Later that day, I returned to the rose garden. As I walked through the rows of roses, I noticed something I hadn't seen before, a small, freshly dug patch of earth. I knelt down and began to dig, my heart pounding in my chest as I unearthed a small wooden box. Inside, photographs, each depicting a different woman, each bearing a striking resemblance to Eleanor. And then I saw it, a single photograph of Lady Beatrice taken years ago. On the back, a single word was written, "Sister." The truth hit me like a physical blow. Lady Beatrice and Eleanor were sisters, bound by a shared past, a shared secret. They had used their combined beauty and cunning to manipulate Lord Ashworth, to drain him of his wealth, and ultimately to destroy him. But why? What was their motive? As I continued to investigate, I uncovered that Lord Ashworth had been involved in a series of shady dealings, including the trafficking of rare artifacts. He had made many enemies, and it was possible that he had been targeted by someone seeking revenge. The case was far from closed. The missing lord was still missing, and the mystery surrounding his disappearance was far from solved. I knew that I had to find him, to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. I returned to the manor, determined to find the answers I sought. I questioned the staff, examined the evidence, and pieced together the fragments of the puzzle. The investigation led me to a hidden chamber beneath the manor, a secret room that Lord Ashworth had used to store his illicit treasures. Inside, I found a collection of priceless artifacts, as well as a series of letters that revealed the truth about his disappearance. These letters were written by a mysterious figure known only as the Collector. They detailed a plot to steal Lord Ashworth's most prized possession, a priceless diamond necklace. The Collector had hired a group of mercenaries to carry out the heist, and they had been waiting for the perfect opportunity. The letters also revealed that Lord Ashworth had discovered the plot and had tried to escape, but he had been caught and killed by the mercenaries, his body hidden somewhere on the estate. I followed the clues, searching every nook and cranny of the manor. Finally, I found it, a hidden passage behind a bookcase in Lord Ashworth's study. The passage led to a dark, damp cellar. As I made my way through the shadows, I heard a faint sound, the sound of dripping water. I followed the sound, my heart pounding in my chest, and then I saw it, a small wooden coffin hidden beneath a pile of old crates. I opened the coffin, and there he was, Lord Ashworth, his face pale, his eyes closed. He had been murdered, his body hidden away, his secrets buried with him. The case was finally closed. The truth had been revealed, the culprits apprehended, but the darkness that had settled over Blackwood Manor remained. As I left the manor, the biting wind whipped across the lawns, carrying with it the scent of damp earth and the distant howl of a lonely wolf. I knew that I would never forget the case of Blackwood Manor, the case that had taken me into the heart of darkness, the case that revealed the hidden desires, simmering resentments, and the darkness that clung to the very stones of the manor. The case was closed, but the darkness remained, and I knew with a chilling certainty that they would always be there.
Hello, is anyone there?
For the next victim to fall into their grasp.